Welcome back to the Power and Purpose podcast. I'm Vanessa Soul, your host. Thank you so much for joining me here. Today is an astrology episode, and it's my solo episodes that are released every Thursday, and they are odd numbered. So from 140 onwards, most of those are being released in 2026. Episode 140 onward is the astrology episodes that are odd numbered. I want to talk about alchemy, transformation, evolution in today's astrology podcast episode. And when we're talking about those things, we have to bring Chiron, the asteroid, into the conversation. So, this is going to be a Chiron episode. The best way to listen to this episode is to actually pull up your chart really quick and find out where your Chiron is in your natal chart. So you want to look at your natal chart, Placidus house system. There's a link below, astro-charts.com. You can look at your chart and just write down the house and the sign. We actually won't go through the signs today, but it's just good for you to know. So you might have Chiron in the fifth house in Gemini. You might have Chiron in the eighth house in Aries, or you might have Chiron in the 12th house in Leo, whatever it might be. Just write that down in your phone or put it somewhere, put it in your chat GPT, put it somewhere where you can come back and look at it and reference it. And I will be going through the numbered or the houses, the house numbers, as I'm really giving you some context as to like why Chiron is important, what does it mean, how can we work with it, et cetera, et cetera. All right, so Chiron shows you where in your life that you really are being called to cultivate deeper self-awareness. And Chiron asks you to evolve through it. So it's kind of like an initiation, it's a calling. You are presented with a challenge where you need deeper self-awareness. This is how I like to speak of Chiron. Chiron is really about alchemy, transformation, turning our pain into our power, turning our pain into our purpose, those types of things. Yes, I know someone's going to say in the comments or in conversation that, hey, isn't Chiron the wounded healer? Yes, Chiron is commonly known as the wounded healer. But I like to, I would like for more people to graduate from that concept. It's valid, totally valid. But we also don't need to, the reason why I like to use other ways of describing Chiron is because we don't have to be the wounded healer. We don't have to be the person who is guiding, leading, and teaching and still be stuck in our wounds. And sometimes that phrase might support that or allude to that. And then also somewhere along the way, I think it gets lost in translation that Chiron is our wounds and we're a wounded healer in this part of our chart, and that will always be wounded in that area. I think that just got lost in translation over time, because of how we refer to Chiron as where where you need to face your wounds, where you're wounded, where et cetera, et cetera. The wounded healer, those types of labels. And so because of that, I like to stick to the word challenge. Challenges, and challenges can include trauma, right? Challenges can include wounds, but challenge can also just be it's a little bit more of a neutral term, and it allows us to move through our obstacles and move through the life lessons with more neutrality and less emotional attachment and less victimhood and less pessimism oftentimes. And I'm not creating all these extra terms to bypass, the heaviness or the realness of what it means to actually evolve through a challenge, to actually move through it and not bypass it, not move around it, not resist it, not suppress it, not run away from it, not deny it. Like, we actually have to move through things. Again, Chiron shows us where your soul really signed up to do the deeper self-awareness. And you can think of that as deeper integration. You can think of that as deeper healing, if the word healing means anything significant to you. And if the word healing doesn't, or you're like me and you're kind of releasing the term healing to see what other words can expand us in a healing context. Choose a word that works for you. But in short, Chiron is where your lived experience becomes your authority. Sometimes we have these really potent experiences, and that's where we can become the teacher and the guide. And in order to become the teacher and a guide with something that has challenged you for so long, you do need to navigate through it. You do need to transcend the actual struggle, transcend the resistance that comes along with um, with difficult situations and emotions. All right, so let's dive in. So now that I've given you some context on like what Chiron is and the elevated way of how I like to refer to Chiron. Chiron is deeper, it's where you're going to be required to cultivate deeper self-awareness. Yes, do some healing work there. Yes, do some integration there. But just know your Chiron is not a lifelong wound. So I probably went through a long way of saying that these last couple of minutes. Chiron is not your lifelong wound. It is a challenge that you grow through, and then you help people with that same exact thing. And Chiron is so integrated into your purpose. There's 8 different markers of your purpose in your astrology chart. From my perspective, Chiron is one of the major ones. So now I'm going to go through the houses and listen for the house that you have Chiron in. We're not going to do the signs today. We're just going to do the houses. I'll give you a little bit of context, jot down some notes, or if you're driving or walking your dog, just kind of think like, how does this apply to your life? Think of your challenges over the course of your life. And when I go through the houses, just so you know, the houses are an area of life. That's what the houses tell us in astrology. They tell us, where is this thing happening, right? And Chiron is telling us, okay, transformation is happening, deep self-awareness is happening, deep healing is happening, or it needs to happen for this person over the course of their life. But where? That's where we look at the houses. It's where in your life the healing, the transformation, the alchemy will happen. All right. So understand where you have this at, and jot down some notes if you need to. So if you have Chiron in the first house deals with identity, initiation, and embodiment. Chiron here initiates growth through identity. You can become deeply aware of who you are and who you are being. And there can also be some sensitivity around visibility and self-expression. If you have Chiron in the first house, you might have thought like, "Oh my gosh, I've always had a challenge with being seen. I've always had a challenge with putting myself out there. I've always had a challenge with feeling at home in my body, or taking full body pictures or posting pictures, or I'm posting a picture with friends and families, and if my full body's in there, it's like I just don't like it. Like you could have so many ways that this shows up for you. So just think of how this is currently showing up for you, even if it's something that you feel like you've navigated successfully and that you're at peace and you're in harmony in this area of your life. If that's you and you have Chiron here, okay, the next step is for you to share with friends and family or people who are close to you, or your audience or your community or your students or whoever. Teach them how to do the same thing if you have successfully moved through this challenge. Okay, that's what the whole Chiron concept is about. So again, with Chiron in the first house, life is constantly pushing you to embody yourself more fully, come into an identity, and be at peace with that identity. It's not like a desperate identity. It's not like a lost identity, or something that would misrepresent you. It's really almost releasing the need for identity and then seeing what lands. So the evolution here is you become someone who leads through embodiment. That's going to be one part of your purpose. And then the evolution is also that your presence itself becomes so impactful. Okay, regardless of how you felt in your younger years, in your 20s or in your 30s, if you feel like, oh my God, I didn't know how to present myself, blah, 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 I didn't want to be seen. I had a fear of being seen, whatever it is. Again, navigating through it and alchemizing it completely. All right, so now moving on to Chiron in the second house. So the second house here deals with resources, value, and stability. Chiron refers to your relationship with value and your relationship with having. And I'm going to add in here last minute, it's also your relationship with your confidence, right? Because our confidence can come from our self-worth. So if you have Chiron in the second house, you have dealt with wounds, patterns, pains, challenges with really cultivating your self-worth, believing in yourself, believing that you could do anything that you want to do, believing that you are deserving of as much abundance as you would like to have, and believing that you can maintain stability in your life, right? You might have had wounds around that, traumatic situations. But Chiron here is asking you to have deeper self-awareness. So participate in things that really allow you to redefine yourself with abundance, money, self-worth, confidence, resources, and stability. And also have awareness around what you deserve and what you deserve to hold. So the evolution here is building unshakable self-worth, bulletproof self-worth. And also the evolution here is you can teach others how to value themselves and how to value their work. Again, this is not a lifelong wound that you have to be in. This is something that you're alchemizing. This is something that you're growing through. Many of you have probably already grown through this. I see this with my clients pretty often, where they have actually integrated their Chiron, and oftentimes they don't know. It's not until their Chiron return or until some other major transit in their chart really reveals, like, hey, you're not the person you used to be. You have transcended this, you have integrated it, and you're ready to teach it to other people. So hopefully you might have some of those awarenesses come through as I'm going through these as well. Chiron in the third house. So the third house here deals with communication, processing, and connection. Chiron develops your voice through lived experience. When you have Chiron here, you have probably dealt with sensitivity or challenges or wounds around being heard, around being understood, or even just expressing yourself verbally in any form, writing, any type of communication, verbal communication, written communication. And then also Chiron is asking you to really have a deep awareness around how you think, your mindset, right? How you navigate the world, like how you think about the world on a daily basis. Chiron here in the third house, you have probably had some challenges with speaking, with talking, with communicating effectively, with people either not communicating with you, or you might feel like maybe you undershare, overshare, whatever it might be, and or maybe overthinking things like that. That could be a common challenge here in the third house. The evolution here with Chiron, the alchemy here with Chiron in the third house is that you can become a powerful communicator, and that can be a really potent part of your purpose. And the evolution is also that your words carry depth because you have been refining your message in whatever capacity, in whatever context. You have been refining your message. Every time you speak with someone, you are learning how to communicate better, and you are embodying that. And so eventually, wherever you are in your journey, you could also teach other people how to communicate well, how to reset their mind, how to really change their relationship with thinking, overthinking, things like that, processing information and learning. Next is Chiron in the fourth house. The fourth house here talks about your foundation, your safety, and your inner world. Chiron reshapes your internal foundation. So throughout your life, you might have had some challenges with feeling like you have a strong foundation, or that you were given a strong foundation, or that you were able to maintain a foundation. And that this can be an emotional foundation, a mental foundation, or a physical foundation, like a home, a location. Not everyone grew up in a stable home, and typically, sometimes Chiron here is a important indicator of that. Um, and also feeling safe. If you have Chiron here, you might have some big life challenges around not feeling safe, and that might have been reoccurring for you, many times throughout your life, or not feeling that your inner world is peaceful and harmonized, or feeling like you were really challenged in trying to activate or experience that. So there's a deeper pull for understanding your inner world. You're being asked to really understand your heart, your mind, your emotions, um, just your private habits, things that you do when no one else is around. Like, who are you when you're just by yourself? Create the foundation there. That's what this fourth house is asking for. Chiron in the fourth is asking for. The evolution here, the alchemy with Chiron here. You are here to create your own sense of safety, regardless if you're a digital nomad, regardless if you're moving, regardless if your home is under construction, regardless of what's happening in the material world and physical world. And then also, regardless of what's happening with people around you as well. You might be going through life changes with your family. You might be going through a divorce. You might be getting married. You might be your family life can be changing, and the ask here, the initiation here is, can you create your own sense of safety so that you feel safe emotionally and inside your internal world feels safe, regardless of the divorce, regardless of someone passing, regardless of all these external changes that can happen. Also, the evolution here is that you can hold space for others at a very profound level. If you have Chiron here, I wouldn't be surprised if you're doing psychological work, if you're a psychiatrist, or if you're a coach, or really helping people navigate their emotional awareness or their identity, or their family life, love life, relationships, anything like that. Next is the fifth house. The fifth house here deals with creation, expression, and desire. Chiron activates growth through creative expression. Now, if you have Chiron here throughout your life, you might have felt like you were shameful of your desires, or you had some wounds around wanting things, around desiring things, around wanting to have fun, around having hobbies, or doing or having leisure time, or self-care, or being creative and painting, or going to art class or dance class, or expressing yourself, things like that. um, Chiron in this fifth house really brings an awareness around being seen in your creativity. And you might have felt, again, those sensitivities around expressing joy or play or expression. For example, you might have been in a very serious family where you almost didn't feel like it was appropriate to be happy, or to be joyful, or to be playful, right? So that's just a quick example, just so you can relate to your own experience and be aware of it if that resonates. And so the evolution here, the alchemy that Chiron is asking for, is that you can become magnetic through authenticity, because you went through so many challenges with your own self-expression, with your own creativity, with your own desire, whether that's romantic desire or just desire to play and have fun and go on adventures and travel and spend money and do all the life things. It's becoming magnetic as you do whatever it is that you actually love to do on your free time. All right. The other part of the evolution here is that your creativity becomes healing for you and others. Your creativity becomes healing for you and others. The other day, this makes me think I started to see this artist on Facebook. Her stuff started to come through my field on my timeline, and she paints these beautiful paintings, and you can't see it all in just regular light. There's a different side of the painting that shows up when she puts like a fluorescent light on the canvas, and you'll see like a whole nother side of the painting that you can't see in normal lighting. But she paint one of the series that she's doing, or maybe this is just her a major part of her work, is that she paints different psychological, I don't want to call them disorders, different psychological experiences. So she'll paint like PTSD, or someone, being on the autistic spectrum, or someone with bipolar or things like that, right? And she's really she's using her creative expression to illustrate both sides of the psychological aspect that she's focusing on. It's really, really beautiful. I mean, and the reason why I brought it up is because I looked at some of those. There was like postpartum depression and the bipolar one and multiple personalities and schizophrenia. And I was like, whoa, that is really healing because it allowed me to shift my perspective on some of those labels. So that's just an example. Next is the sixth house. The sixth house here, we're going to be focusing on devotion, systems, and refinement. Chiron refines how you show up consistently. And it will most likely you've been pushed or initiated throughout your life to have an awareness around work, your daily habits, your daily efforts, your health, and perfection, whether you're overly attached to trying to be perfect or not. And also a push to improve and optimize and align your routines. So you might have felt like you've struggled your whole life with routines, or you've struggled your whole life with health, or you struggled your whole life with being consistent. Again, try not to get stuck in the challenge or the wound. Although those experiences are worth unpacking and processing and integrating, remember that Chiron offers us the evolution. It offers us the alchemy here. But before I get into the evolution for the sixth house, just think, you know, how have you been navigating your challenges through your daily life? If you're having challenges with routine or with just operating on a day-to-day basis, I've seen that. I've seen people who were in moments of their lives with this natal Chiron where they just felt like waking up every day was really challenging. It was a struggle, right? And the person I'm referring to is on the other side of that now. And so, whatever that means for you, it doesn't have to be that dramatic or devastating. But just keep your awarenesses around your work-life balance, around your effort that you're putting in, without, try not to overgive or undergive or any of that. And really being in alignment with your health. So the evolution here is that you can build aligned systems that actually work for you. I think, the book Atomic Habits, and I can't think of the author's name at this moment. That is a sixth house book. I wouldn't be surprised if that author had Chiron there or Saturn in the sixth house in his natal chart, or maybe a combination of planets. But that is someone who really dived into the deeper awarenesses of what it means to build a habit, a daily habit, and to maintain it and to keep it going. And if you've ever read the book Atomic Habits, it's a phenomenal book. And sometimes we miss how important the daily routines are until you read that book and you're like, wow, creating a new routine or maintaining one or taking or removing an unhealthy routine is actually a lot more doable than I thought. So, the author of that book, I wouldn't be surprised if he had Chiron or Saturn or maybe even Mars or some of the other planets in the sixth house, because that is someone who really explored their own daily routines and they came out with a gift. They came out with a resource to offer others. So that's part of the evolution of the Chiron here in the sixth house. And lastly, I'll say another part of the evolution here is that you are a model for sustainable success. You are a model for sustainable success, not the crash and burn success, sustainable success. Next is the seventh house. If you have Chiron in the seventh house here, we are dealing with partnership, reflection, and relating. So Chiron evolves through your relationships. You are here to evolve. You are here to get deeper self-awareness about yourself through others, right? So awareness through others, clients, partners, mirrors, coaches, therapists, doctors, neighbors, any other one-on-one relationship. This is like the house of the other. Um, and you might have had a lot of struggle with relationships, whether it's romantic or not. You might have had some traumatic relationships. You might have had relationships that felt very disorientating. Did I say that right? I think so. um, but as you navigate through those relationships, navigate through the challenge, not pulling back, not being like, oh, I'm never getting married, I'm never going to have a romantic partner because I've had all these relationships that didn't go anywhere or that ended up being very difficult. That's resistance. That's where you're hanging on to the challenge, you're hanging on to the wound. Going through it is actually embracing the challenge that you've experienced thus far. And remember, with Chiron, we want to have deeper self-awareness. So if you've had a lot of challenge and struggle in relationship, where can you have deeper awareness around relationships? And it's also going to ask you to have awareness about yourself so that you're committing to the right friendships, the right partnerships, the right relationships. Patterns here highlight that your relationship is to the self as well. Even in relationship to others, it's, can you have a relationship with yourself first? That's the irony. The evolution here is that you become highly skilled in connection and that you create powerful, clean, aligned relationships. That is a powerful place to be. That's a powerful place to have Chiron. And I know that people who have Chiron here, they feel so discouraged around relationships up until a certain point of their lives, until they really start to work consciously. But there's also a lot of people who have no idea that astrology exists or that this placement is in their chart impacting them in this way. So they might find other ways to create more awareness around relationships. But um, I love the evolution for this one. Chiron in the seventh house, becoming highly skilled in connection, becoming highly skilled in how you relate to people. I think that that's like one of the juiciest parts of life is relating to other people and how you do it. So kudos to you. If you have Chiron in the seventh house, please don't be discouraged. Stay inspired. Do things, read books, get in communities, do things that will help you learn how to relate differently or deeper or in a more aligned way. All right, moving on. The eighth house. If you have Chiron in the eighth house here deals with depth, power, and transformation. I love the eighth house. It could be such a dark house, but it's also a Scorpio house, and I have a lot of Scorpio placements. My Chiron's not here though, but I love the depth of the eighth house. Chiron here deepens your capacity for transformation. You might have had a lot of just power. I'm trying to think of a way to explain this without a lot of negativity. You might have had a lot of challenges or traumas around control, power dynamics, um, financial power dynamics, just things that have been very overpowering. You might have had, possessive partners or just situations where there was a very drastic power dynamic. Now, Chiron here is asking for you to have more awareness around those items: control, vulnerability, emotional depth. And it's also asking you to have awareness around the experiences that push you into deeper layers. The evolution here is that you can become comfortable in intensity and depth instead of contracting, instead of feeling like a victim. You can become comfortable and even thrive through intensity and depth. And also, another piece of the evolution is that you can guide others through transformation. Transformation can be so intimidating because we don't know how deep it's ever going to go. We don't know how much depth is going to be required of us to make a certain type of transformation. But you, my friend, if you have Chiron here in the eighth house, you're a guide for deep transformation. And you could hold someone's hand during that process. Moving on, the ninth house, Chiron in the ninth house. The ninth house here deals with expansion, truth, and perspective. If you have Chiron here, you might have dealt with a lot of wounds or challenges around your own beliefs about the world, about God, religion, politics. But remember not to get stuck in the wound and not to get stuck in the challenge. There's a deeper gift here. So Chiron expands your truth through experience. So it's asking you to have more awareness around your beliefs, your direction, and meaning. And you might have been born into a set of beliefs. You might have been born into a certain religion, but how have you navigated through that? Have you created your own beliefs about God or the world or politics through your own lived experience? Because that's the assignment here. All right. And then also, Chiron here is taking you through a journey of refining what you believe. Refine it. The alchemy here is really allowing yourself to build your beliefs on your own lived experience. The evolution here is that you embody lived wisdom. Like you have so much wisdom that from this life, but it'll also start to seep in through just inherent wisdom that comes through, comes from the universe, comes from spirituality, comes from God, comes from your past lives, however you want to phrase it. Another part of the evolution here is that you teach from experience and not from theory. And I think that's so important. I think the world has really been misled by a lot of theories. And then we see pastors and preachers and certain public figures that didn't even agree with their own theories. They lived a completely different life. All right, next is the 10th house, Chiron in the 10th house. The 10th house here deals with authority, visibility, and legacy. If you have Chiron here, you might have dealt with reputation challenges, struggles, challenges and struggles with authority, and also, you know, not knowing what your legacy would be. That could be or could have been some of the themes that are that keep showing up in your life. Chiron shapes your public identity and leadership. It's asking you to have awareness around being seen, being recognized, or even being judged. Having complete awareness around that. And then also, I was going to go into a story about my 10th house realizations, but I'll save it. That feels like a long story. So another thing to keep in mind with the 10th house here is that you're feeling pulled towards meaningful work and impact. You're really being pulled into something where you could leave a legacy. And you're really diving into your purpose here. You're diving in whatever your area of expertise is, wherever you have authority with your skill sets or just with what you do. This is where you're being called to shine. The evolution here is that you step into authentic authority. Authentic authority. And another piece of the evolution is that your leadership is rooted in real experience. It's not about being a dictator. It's not about being the boss of the CEO and not having embodiment. This is the opposite. This is about authentic authority. Chiron in the 11th house. This is where I have Chiron. My Chiron is also conjunct Black Moon Lilith and my moon. So my Chiron experience is not just, one thing. It's a combination of things. Just wanted to mention that really quick. Chiron in the 11th house. The 11th house here deals with results, networks, and receiving. So if you have Chiron here, I'll use myself as an example first. I think that's why I wanted to tell you guys where my Chiron was at. But I had the biggest wound around receiving my whole entire life. I mean, it wasn't until I was like 32, 33 until I realized how big of a wound I had around receiving. And really the wound was just resistance. I mean, it wasn't, there was more to the story, but it turned into resistance. So because I had some challenges with receiving, et cetera, receiving support, receiving opportunity, receiving friends, receiving all kinds of things, it's almost like I didn't allow myself to receive for the longest time. So that was one of the biggest wounds that I had to really navigate through, not resist it, not deny it, not suppress it, not bypass it and move around and like dance around it. It was literally going through it. And now I'm so receptive. I'm so receptive. It's night and day. And I every day, whether it's through a podcast, whether it's through my sales consulting work, whether it's through my astrology work or my healing work or whatever, I'm one of the hidden medicines that I'm always offering people that ends up just happening automatically is I'm so receptive. It inspires them how to be receptive, right? It inspires them to release control. It inspires them to let their ego down, their guard down in some type of capacity, and they're open to receive friendship, or they're open to receiving opportunity, or they're open to receiving a vision, et cetera, et cetera. Chiron refines how you receive support and success. This is also a money house, the 11th house as well. Chiron here is asking you to have more awareness around belonging, community, and being supported. It's also bringing awareness around your patterns and how you receive from others, how you receive money, how you receive praise, how you receive compliments. Again, I could not receive a compliment for the longest time. But that was where my alchemy was. I needed to navigate through that. And I did in so many ways. All right, the evolution here is that you build aligned networks in community and you allow yourself to receive at a higher level. And that's going to require surrender. It's going to require release of control. Just saying. Not that I have it figured out. But I do have some lived experience with that one. If you have Chiron about surrendering, closure, and transcendence, Chiron opens you to the unseen and subconscious. The 12th house is all about your subconscious mind. It's about things that are hidden from you and from others. It's your subconscious programming. It's your deepest desires, your secrets, all of it. So have awareness around your hidden patterns, your hidden fears, your spiritual depth. This might require you to do things like hypnosis. It might require you to go on like a plant medicine retreat. It might require you to do something that is unconventional because you want to get into the depths of your psyche here if you have Chiron. And if you're feeling like you haven't really been able to have the transformation you would like to have and you have Chiron here in the 12th house, it's because you need a deeper awareness around some hidden patterns, hidden fears, hidden secrets, hidden desires. Do you desire one thing, but you think you desire one thing, but you really desire something else? So common with Chiron here in the 12th house. And I'm not saying that from a place of judgment. I'm saying I'm saying that from a place of experience with working with people who have Chiron in the 12th house. All right, so here you are going to feel an initiation, a pull towards introspection and healing. It's very important that you listen to that. And it might be more prominent in certain areas of your life, even though you have this Chiron in the 12th house in your natal chart. It's here. It's when you have something in your natal chart, it doesn't move around. There is a transiting Chiron, but this one it will always be here. But when there's other planets also transiting this 12th house, activating it like a Mars, activating this house, even a Jupiter here, you are going to feel even more of an initiation towards introspection and really addressing your subconscious mind. The evolution here is you develop deep trust and intuitive connection. And the other piece of the evolution here is that you access wisdom beyond the surface. And that can mean so many things, but it's going to be very specific for you. So thank you so much for joining me on this journey today, an astrology episode. I went through Chiron, through the different houses, and I would love to hear your comments, your shares, how this was helpful. When I got to your house where you have Chiron, what was the most valuable perspective when it came to your house? I would love to hear that. If you want to put that in the comments, if you're watching on YouTube. And again, I just want to reiterate the message. You are not stuck in your wounds. Where your Chiron is, you are here to be the alchemist. You're here to teach other people how to overcome the challenge, how to navigate through the challenge, how to turn their pain into their power in this area of your life and in their life. All right. So it's not like you need to cover all the areas of life for everyone when it comes to your teachings. When we're dealing with Chiron, you can really niche down into this particular house. And also the sign will help. We didn't go through the signs, but that's another layer that will also help you on how to deliver your teaching, your message, because you have a lived experience through this Chiron in this area of your chart. You have a lot of wisdom to give because you've been on the other side. You failed multiple times. You got knocked down in this area of life multiple times. It might have held you back for a long time. But now many people navigate through it with grace and ease. And now they're here to teach others. All right. Thank you so much for joining in. Namaste. Have a great day.